On most mornings, the local birds would gather in a little stream that fed the neighborhood's stormwater retention pond. There, below the drainage pipe where it emerged, more a trickle than a stream really, under the snakeweed and oriental bittersweet vines, they would come to bathe. House sparrows and song sparrows and starlings, boisterous mockingbirds and shy catbirds, cardinals, robins, sometimes a blue jay flashing iridescent. They would sit in the shallows, splashing their wings, on a bed of gravel that sparkled when it was sunny. Sometimes they bathed alone, but often in pairs or small groups. Watching them while I drank my coffee and planned the day became part of my morning ritual, and some months after I first noticed them, I considered that it was their morning ritual too. They were like locals at a coffee shop or the gym. They were my neighbors. This was the lesson of the third sort of nature I've known in my life. The first, around the town of Bangor, Maine, where I grew up, nourished a great outdoors sort of appreciation. I couldn't identify more than a handful of species or explain how nutrients cycled between stream and forest, but I learned the pleasure of remoteness, the feeling of pine needles, the beauty of a loon's call, and a Milky Way undimmed by streetlights. Later came New York City, where I lived for a decade across my 20s and 30s, during which time I became a science and nature writer. There I started to learn details, names of flowers in vacant lots, histories of migrating shorebirds who stopped in wetlands at the city's edges, and ecology, to examine the ideals of wilderness and wildness that framed my relationship to nature. I also wrote about the science of animal intelligence and the ethics of how we treat nonhumans. The question arose, if not the answer, of what it could mean to think of wild animals as the thinking, feeling individuals they are. Next came Bethesda, Maryland, a suburban city outside Washington, D.C., where my girlfriend had a job, home to the stormwater retention pond. It took nearly a year to wrap my head around that environment. It didn't fit the frames of rural abundance or sidewalk crack resilience to which I'd been accustomed. It was both dominated by humans and overflowing with animal life. Once I learned to appreciate that, the sense of neighborliness followed, which may not sound revelatory, but it constituted a profound shift. Animals became individuals rather than, like the drawings in a field guide, examples of their species. Never mind that I couldn't identify each sparrow individually. I knew they could. I stopped thinking of those animals as interlopers in an essentially human space. Instead, they were residents of a place shared by people of many species, only some of them human.